Am I my sister's keeper? A Nigerian woman whose sister has an inconvenient habit must decide where her loyalty will stand. Will she continue to protect her sister no matter the cost, or will she finally decide to free herself? Her name, Korede. The book, My Sister the Serial Killer, and you're listening to Lit Society. Let's get lit. Hi readers, this is Alexis.
And this is Kari.
And you're listening to Lit Society, a show about books and a little drama.
A little bit, yeah.
How you doing this week, Kari?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How's your week been?
Good. I went home to Milwaukee, where I am from originally. Mm-hmm. I saw your mom. She looked beautiful.
Aww.
And visited with my family. Everyone's doing great. So it was a great weekend. What about you?
This weekend, I spent a little time cleaning.
That's cool.
I haven't done that in a long time, you know, that time thing, but yeah. I'm looking to get a housekeeper.
Oh, are you?
Sure, yeah.
Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you start podcasting, getting a little money on the side, and start hiring housekeepers. That's awesome. Mm-mm. Are you going to be in the house while she cleans? Because that's extra rich.
It is my preference, but we'll see how that works out.
Okay, let me know if you find someone.
I promise I will. But we're going to get into this week, okay?
Okay.
We're going to start with the theme of the week, as we normally do. Each week we select a theme to discuss, and it's inspired by the book that we're reading.
Right.
So the theme this week we're discussing is criminal siblings throughout history. So instead of just looking at stories of siblings that are criminals.
So basic.
Yeah, that seemed like a little much. I decided to look in kind of some psychology. So I came across an article, and since Psychology Today, it's by a Dr. Sam Now. He has a PhD, and he wrote an article called Parents Don't Turn Children into Criminals. The idea has always been that whenever children or siblings or anybody commits a crime, they begin to look at the parents.
Absolutely.
What did they do? They must have been horrible.
What about you made your children so terrible?
Yeah, exactly. And that comes from the belief that children are given to us as this formless lump of clay, and then we get to mold them into the well-adjusted and emotionally stable adult.
If only.
Yeah, if only that were the case. But there are so many factors that contribute to what forms a person. I think we've talked about this before. Mm-hmm. But his article talked about that children are predisposed to developing. They have some predispositions that contribute to their personality. And because of these predispositions, parents are molding that also. They're kind of fighting and nurturing that.
Fighting genetics.
Yeah, to nurture that because, they come from a lot of things. And then all the outside influences that contribute, all those things play into who we become. So it's not just the parent. It's not that the parent can make you that way. They're not, you didn't have a bad seed, right? Or people aren't born criminals, but there are a lot of things that contribute to that. And I think he talks about this in this article. And then in the conclusion of his article, he says that concluding that a criminal is the product of bad parents may satisfy a theory, but it ignores the reality that children make choices from an early age and that criminals come from a wide variety of backgrounds. And while blaming parents is easy to do, it distracts us from understanding the mind of the perpetrator. So, Kari, did you have any thoughts that you wanted to share this week about our theme, criminal siblings?
I do. I have some, I don't know why I'm laughing. I do have some criminal siblings whose story I'd like to regale you with.
Oh, wow.
Right. Have you heard of the Han sisters?
No, I haven't.
Okay. These are two identical twins, one pair of identical twins, born in South Korea in 1974, 5 minutes apart. Gina was the youngest and Sunny was the oldest. Again, only by 5 minutes, but that matters. Their mom eventually, their parents divorced and their mom takes them to live in the States. They settle in Orange County. At this point, they don't know any English. Okay. Their mom becomes a waitress, but unfortunately later becomes a gambler and neglects the twins. They spend days alone until they rely on only each other. It's very sad, but they do very well, even at a young age, with just the both of them.
Okay.
They call their aunt and uncle, who live not too far away, and their aunt and uncle take them in. In that environment, they thrive.
Okay.
They have this competitive nature with each other, where if one does good, the other has to do better. In fact, Gina says that Sunny was very good in school, and Gina just liked to win. She didn't necessarily like to learn, but her thing was beating her sister.
And Gina is the younger sister.
Gina's the youngest one. So they become co-valedictorians at graduation. After school, the sisters split because they hate each other. And Gina becomes a gambler like her mom. That's the youngest one. She ends up in debt, resorts to petty theft, and must call Sunny to move in with her. Sunny has this idea that as the older sister, she has to be respected, and the younger sister must be subservient. And Gina ain't with it.
And they're twins.
Yeah, 5 minutes apart. So, Gina starts talking back and maybe stealing some change from her purse. I don't know. So they get into a fight. Blood is drawn, a nose is broken, and the police have to come.
Okay.
When the police show up, Gina's like, hey, before you try to take me in, I think you should know that Sunny has a warrant out for her arrest.
Slow down.
And it's true. Unfortunately, Sunny does have a warrant out for her arrest for stealing a credit card. And she explains it away. It was a one-time thing, and she didn't have a habit of stealing. It was a foolish time in her life. But they don't care about that, and they take her into custody.
Wow. Okay.
So while Sunny is in custody, Gina spends all of her sister's money, which is typical scammer behavior. Sunny, who wasn't sent to prison, I think she just had to pay a fine, comes back, finds all her money gone, and presses charges against her sister. Gina's eventually sentenced to 6 months.
6 months. That's a short time.
Yeah. Not soon after, however, Sunny, the older one, is in the shower and hears a commotion in the living room. She believes her roommate is being assaulted, so she calls 911. Then a man with a gun barges into the bathroom where she is and makes her and her roommate get in the bathtub.
Oh, my goodness.
Very scary stuff. As the officers, who were stationed only a block away, surround the apartment, an Asian woman walks up to them and is like, "Hi, you guys. What's going on? It's a lot of cops. Is everything okay?" And they're like, "Ma'am, chill out. It's fine." Can you guess who that woman? It is Gina.
Oh, my goodness.
So, yeah, Gina went to jail and got out on furlough.
Oh, my goodness.
And was supposed to come back and just didn't.
Oh, man.
So
she plotted her sister.
Ooh, you are ahead. Very good.
Okay.
So it turns out that Gina, when she got out on furlough, right away picked up 2 teenage boys, one 15, one 16, and was like, "Hey, I'll pay you money to rob my sister." And they're like, "Okay."
She is pretty low down.
And as they're on their way to Sunny's apartment, she goes, "Just kidding. Can you kill her?"
Oh!
And they go, "Okay, maybe.
Wow.
We'll see how it goes." So, yeah. So the police enter, and when the police bust in, the intruder asked the girls in the bathtub, "Hey, pretend this was all a prank, okay?" And they're like, "Oh, sure, but no." And so the intruders are eventually caught. And
so they got out of the house?
One did escape,
okay.
But he's eventually caught up. Police catch up with him. And they find out that the ultimate plan was for Gina to kill Sunny and steal her identity, because apparently Gina's been telling everyone all over town that she wants to kill her sister.
Why did she think she'd get away with it?
Because she's smart, but she's stupid. It's really sad.
Goodness.
She wants to start over with a clean slate, and since they're identical twins, she thought it'd be easy. During the trial, Sunny has this weird breakdown. But after her testimony and the testimony of 2 accomplices, Gina is sentenced to 26 years to life.
Okay.
While in prison, though, she continues her career of scamming and starts finessing pen pals.
Wow.
In fact, one man in Britain gave her $100,000 after writing to her for a year, which is like decent. Well, anyway, Gina was released on parole last year. So, Gina, if you're listening, stay where you at. Don't come around here. Yeah.
Well,
and those are the Han sisters.
That's a wild story.
Right?
And some of it kind of makes me think of our story.
Yeah,
so
right.
We're going to get into that in just a quick second. So let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
Okay. Now, welcome back from the break. So, Kari, let's get into this a little bit. And if you could give us a little background on our author.
For sure.
And her name is?
I believe Oyinkan Braithwaite.
All right.
Yeah, so Oyinkan was born in 1988. She's 31 years old, raised in Nigeria and the UK. She was trying to work through her writer's block, and that is how the concept for My Sister, the Serial Killer came about. She sent that first draft to a couple friends. One came back and said, "This is the best thing you ever wrote." Shade. Well, that first draft became the prototype for which publishers would start shopping. And within a month, she had a feverish month. She had a finished draft, and that is the book that we are reviewing today. Did you think this book was particularly violent?
No, not at all.
Right? Yeah, for something that deals with the theme of murder, there is no gore. I had heard that, which made me feel confident in choosing it. But that is by design. So the finished novel is purposely deadpan. And she says that I knew it was going to have darkness, but I didn't want to stay in it. I didn't want to immerse myself. So it became a very matter of fact. I needed my characters to do this thing and then move on. Yep. So the story here really is not one that revels in murder. It's one that revels in the story of these two sisters.
Yes.
So she definitely accomplished her goal.
Let us get into, say, a brief synopsis that doesn't include any spoilers.
No spoilers in the synopsis, no problem. My Sister, the Serial Killer is a dark comedy about two siblings, Korede and her younger sister, Ayula. With honey skin, long dreadlocks, a Coke bottle shape, and canyon-deep dimples. I wrote that. The younger is blessed with killer looks, and kill she does. Each time a new boyfriend ends up dead, big sis Korede is there to clean and disinfect any trace of evidence. But when Ayula begins dating the love of Korede's life, Korede must ask herself how thick blood should be.
I like that.
Thank you.
That was a good one. It entices me.
Thanks.
So, all right, then jumping in a little further, do you have any first thoughts?
Oh, my first thoughts on the book. I mean, these chapters, right? My first thought was, what an easy read. I wish I was on a beach, because this is a book you read in a day. I felt, and we've said that before, but I felt like this book.
You've said that before.
I felt this was a true page turner. And that's what I wrote in my Goodreads review, that it was a true page turner. Each chapter feels like just a drop in the overall bucket of this story. And these are short chapters, really punchy. It gets to the point. I really felt, will I say, taken in on the first section of the book? Maybe not. It took me a while to really care about these characters. But when I did, I was all in. What about you? Did you have any first thoughts?
Okay, so my first thoughts are, I really like how short the chapters are, like the titles falling into it. So I was really ready to read it.
Yeah.
That's always good for me, short chapters. Yeah.
It makes you feel like you're really progressing reading along in the book when you covered 20 chapters and it's 3 pages in.
I know. I got to agree with that 100%.
Yeah,
and I
cool.
think our last book was like that as well.
Yeah.
So I'm really starting to appreciate that. So I think we're ready to get into kind of a plot summary or the deep dive into the book.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
And you're going to share spoilers?
I am. I'm going to spoil this book for you if you haven't read it.
Okay.
So first part, wash, stabber, repeat. Thanks. So Korede has the food and television ready for her Netflix and me night. And she gets a call from her sister, Ayula. She isn't upset. She is disappointed because she knows what's on the other end of this call, a murder to claim. So this time, Ayula has killed a man by the name of Femi. He's fine.
That's what it sounds like.
It sounds like he's fine, okay? And Korede like, oh, a fine one.
I know.
I don't feel good about this. Beautiful men shouldn't die. Yeah. But more than that, he's thoughtful. So, and Ayula describes the scene. She was protecting herself. He wasn't afraid. To him, she must have seemed a beautiful doll. Those are her words.
Right.
And his body is thrown over a bridge where the others are waiting. Korede remarks, at least he won't be alone. And so I mentioned that Korede reads a poem he wrote. This starts to be a pattern with her. She looks for his poetry because it helps form the whole person that he was in her mind.
And that's because she didn't know him and she knew the others.
Did she know the other two?
Yes,
okay, so this is the third boyfriend.
Yes, this is the third boyfriend, and she was only dating him.
It was almost secretly, right? Yeah.
A month. And so she didn't find out about him
until he was dead.
Oh, yeah.
So the hashtag Femi Durand is missing starts trending, and Ayula loses interest almost immediately. But for Korede, this one sticks. Part 2, St. Peter's surrender. So if hospitals had a flag, it'd be white, the universal sign for surrender. That is the line written there. And this is where Korede surrenders or gives in to her weaknesses. She's a nurse. She works at the hospital. And it's here that she confesses her sins to a comatose patient, and where she also falls in love with the youngest doctor of the hospital. So about the confession. Long Lean Mutar Yautai, he's the comatose patient. He's been out so long that his family rarely visits him at this point. Korede visits him every day and tells him everything in detail. So she pulls up a chair next to this man and goes, "Hey, my sister killed someone else." And you know what? I'm like tripping about it. Like, it's annoying, right? What do you think? Well, of course you do. And you're right. So this man isn't responding. She's having full conversations on a daily basis. This is her therapy because this is starting to weigh on her.
Yeah, she needs an outlet.
Yeah.
And he serves as that for her.
For sure. And when she's done divulging everything to this comatose man, she always finds a way to cross paths with Tade. Tade is fine. He's the youngest doctor in the hospital. He's not fine. He's beautiful. But more than that, he is caring, intelligent. He can sing. And he is oblivious to her. Cries the girl, kicking and scratching. She's like a wild chicken. Her mother grits her teeth and bears the pain. I wonder if this was what she imagined when she was posing for her pregnancy photo shoot and making merry at the baby shower. Tade dips his hand into the bowl of candy he keeps on his desk for his child patients, but she smacks away the proffered lollipop. His smile does not falter. He begins to sing. His voice fills up the room, submerging my brain. Everything stills. The child pauses, confused. She looks up at her mother, who is transfixed by the voice too. It doesn't matter that he sings "Mary Had a Little Lamb." We still have goosebumps. Is there anything more beautiful than a man with a voice like an ocean? I'm standing beside the window and I look down to see a group of people gathered, peering up and pointing. Tade rarely puts on the air conditioner and his window is usually open. He told me he likes to hear Lagos while he works. The never-ending car horns, the shouts of hawkers, and tires screeching on the road. Now Lagos listens to him. The little girl sniffs and wipes away her mucus with the back of her hand. She waddles towards him. When she is older, she will remember him as her first love. She will think of how perfect his crooked nose was and how soulful his eyes. But even if she forgets his face, his voice will stay with her in her dreams. He scoops her into his arms and dries her tears with a tissue. He looks up at me expectantly and I shake myself out of my reverie. She doesn't notice as I approach her with the needle. She doesn't budge as I wipe her thigh with an alcohol swab. She tries to join him in song, her voice broken by the occasional sniff and hiccup. Her mother twists her wedding ring with her finger as though contemplating taking it off. I consider passing her a tissue to catch the drool that threatens to spill from her mouth. The little girl flinches as I inject the drug into her, but Tade's grip on her is firm. It's all over. "Aren't you a brave girl?" he says to her. She beams and this time is willing to collect her prize, a cherry-flavored lollipop. "You are so good with kids," her mother coos. "Do you have any of your own?" "No, I don't. One day, though." He smiles at her, showing off his perfect teeth and creasing his eyes. She can be forgiven for believing that this smile is just for her, but it is the smile he gives to everyone. It is the smile he gives to me. She blushes. "And You are not married? Madam, do you want 2 husbands? No, I'm not. I have a sister. She's very... Dr. Otumu, here are the prescriptions. Tade looks up at me, confused by my abruptness. Later, he will tell me gently, always gently, that I shouldn't cut patients off. They come to the hospital for healing, and sometimes it's not just their bodies that need attention. So what do you think of Tade?
I think this section right here paints him beautifully as a gentle soul.
Patient.
Yeah.
Kind.
Yeah.
Thoughtful, wise.
I could see why she would love him, from afar, because that's all she got.
Yeah.
And he's well, I guess we'll talk about it a little bit later, but he's kind to her.
Right.
Yeah. So they've had lunch together, right? Yeah. So.
Yeah, she'll bring him food to eat, if that's what you mean by lunch. Or she'll invite him.
Lunch
She will invite him out, and another nurse will come, and she's like, well, maybe next time he'll invite me, and it'll just be us 2. So, yeah, he's pretty. He sees her, but he doesn't see her.
Yeah. He doesn't see her. He works for her.
But her infatuation has indeed turned into love.
Yep.
Part 3, home is for the hypocrites. So back at home, Ayoola is in her regular flirty mood, okay? She's active on social media. And before posting a fun food Snapchat, Korede stops her and reminds her, hey, your boyfriend is missing.
Right, be careful.
So it's too soon.
Too soon, be careful.
And then we're introduced to the mother. The mother is as enamored of Ayoola as everyone else.
Right.
So that girl's beauty has everyone kind of like under her spell. And her mother isn't cold or thoughtless, but she is shallow and likely broken by her late husband, who we get bits and pieces of throughout the book, enough to tell us who he was as a man. I'll save his description for a little later.
Okay.
Lunch. So Ayoola visited Korede at the hospital for lunch, uninvited, against Korede's wishes. This is a surprise visit. She walks in wearing a yellow dress, high heels, and everyone's eyes turn to face her, and their faces stay there. And they are looking her up and down, and they are like, the sunshine has come into St. Peter's Hospital. Right. Who are you? Men are whispering under their breath. Even the women are like just in admiration. Okay. So everyone's head turns, right? Even the lazy nurses Korede works with and hates are instantly captivated by her sister.
Did she say she hates both of them?
I mean, she treats them with disdain. They are lazy.
One more than the other, though.
Yeah. One falls asleep with her eyes open. That is a skill she has mastered. So Korede frantically tries to rush Ayoola out for obvious reasons, but it's too late. Tade sees them, and he starts talking to Korede while looking at Ayoola, like, where it's going? Oh. Who's this tall drink of water? And Korede's like, this is my sister, okay? And he's still looking at Ayoola, and he's like, I didn't know you had a sister. More importantly,
exactly.
So he sees Ayoola and just falls head over heels instantly. He's in love, and they start dating pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Korede dies inside.
Yep.
Really sad.
Pretty disgusted by this.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ayoola tells her sister, Tade is like all the rest. Calm down. In fact, I'll prove it. So what does that mean? He's like all the rest.
Really?
Yeah, I want to know your thoughts.
He's just after her for her looks.
Ooh.
That's all that means. Yep.
He's not after like her mind and stuff?
Nope. He sees her looks and he's drawn in, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because he has a quality coworker that he could fall in love with, but he's not.
A quality coworker. Yeah, she's a quality woman. Okay, she works hard.
She's a hard worker.
Yeah,
she gives him food, and he loves the food. And so there's a line in the book. I hope I'm not jumping too far ahead.
It's fine.
But there's a line in the book where he has had her food and he enjoys it, and he's like, Korede, this is heavenly.
You're going to make someone an excellent wife.
Yes.
Not me, though.
And so you hear this thing, in life, and it's probably more old. And I don't know if people still say this, but the way to a man's heart
is through his stomach.
It's through his stomach. This right here proves right. Not true. Because if that was the case, he would have swooped in and got her.
But is he even worth having? I mean, that's debatable.
In her mind, he is.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going off of, her mind, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So no.
So yes. Korede has no one in her life who cares for her.
No.
Who really is not just interested in what she can do for them.
Right.
Even her sister, who probably loves her the most, uses her as like a sponge to clean up the blood after every murder.
Right.
One day, a bouquet of orchids arrives to the home. They are obviously from Tade. And when they arrive, Ayoola texts him. Do you remember what she texted him?
It was something like, I, prefer roses.
Right.
Period. So like
at noon the same day, roses arrive. And in the middle of the night, Korede is so distraught by this that she destroys the bouquet.
But also of importance is Korede felt like he would have been really thoughtful about the flowers that he did give
she was
her.
really disgusted by her sister because she knows Tade, and he would have thought about this bouquet and how this bouquet of orchids and how it reflects his affection for her sister.
Right.
And for her sister to just carelessly respond with, yo, I like roses, okay? Just really sends Korede over, and she destroys that bouquet of roses in the middle of the night in like this haze of frustration and jealousy. And they wake up to the mom screaming that someone must have broken in to destroy the bouquet of roses, because that happens.
Just so dramatic.
She is. The girls see that the maid is about to be fired because, I don't know, the mom is now blaming the maid, and Ayoola takes the blame. So this is the first time we see Ayoola take the blame for something her sister has done.
Yeah, which goes to their relationship. But also Korede did want to speak up, but Ayoola spoke up first.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the men in Korede's life.
Okay.
She dreams now about Femi, the last murder she's had to clean up. So I don't know why I laugh. That's dark. So she reads his poetry on the blog that his family has set up so that the internet won't forget him.
Right.
The family has created a website with all of Femi's beautiful poetry, and that's where Korede lives. She's really forming him into a full human, giving him a personality. She never met him, so she wants to see what he was like. Why this one? She can't wrap her mind around that. And this is the first time she questions her sister's motives.
Right.
Because her sister always says that it's in self-defense. But Korede's like, but if you were running away, how did you stab him in the back? And then also, why'd you have a knife?
Right.
And this is the knife that their father used to have. That's kind of important too.
Right.
Their bullying father. Mm-hmm.
She also feels like she didn't really have remorse after this.
Right. Right. And
her reaction, her response after it.
Oh, she was, if she ever, I mean, I don't think she ever felt remorse truly, but at least she pretended with the other two.
Right.
But with this one, she is already on Snapchat the next day and like, you know. So, and then there's Tade, Dr. Tade. He's a disappointment because he's blindly unaware of Ayoola's faults.
Yeah.
He focuses only on her beauty, just like Ayoola said he would.
Yeah, that's right.
But Korede still loves him. And then there's the comatose patient, who's also a disappointment.
Why is he a disappointment?
Because he wakes up.
That does not count as disappointment. The man wants to live.
She has told him all her deepest, darkest secrets. She goes to work one day and they're like, hey, Mutar's asking for you. And she's like, what? I am confusion. She goes into the man's room and he's like, oh, you're that nurse who lives in my dreams.
But also, why did she think that he did not remember? I mean, everybody knows it.
I don't know. We don't know what comatose patients hear. Oh, no, we do kind of, right? Some have said they heard. Yeah, that's true. Well, she needed someone to talk to. This was a heavy load to carry.
It was.
And he surprises her by recalling her confessions with clarity and surprises her even more by not judging. Right. So he considers her strong.
Right.
And he urges her to save the man Ayoola is currently dating, who's Tade.
Yep.
Now, the evidence against these sisters is starting to pile up in the background.
Right.
They didn't know it, but a man saw them leave. He doesn't mention the body he was carrying, but he does mention that there were 2 women that left Femi's apartment. Femi's sister gets on Snapchat and is like, why is the babe my brother was dating not mentioning that there was another woman with her? Something is up. Then there's also a bloody napkin discovered in the sofa. And Ayula's like, I don't know. Maybe I left it there. I think I did. I forgot, okay?
I think she said to the police that it was he had a bloody nose.
Yeah, bloody nose.
Not running. Right. A bloody nose.
And then the police arrived to the home to interrogate the sisters, and they too are enamored of Ayula, and they're like fumbling over their words, and they're like, well, we're going to take your car, Korede. Korede's like, dang. So they take her car.
She seems to be getting hit with all the effects of
all the consequences of her sister's actions.
Her sister's actions.
Right.
Yes.
Well, she knows she scrubbed that car within an inch of its life because this is a coping mechanism for her that she's OCD and she must clean every room she is in.
Yeah.
Every corner of the world that she is a part of must be spotless.
Well, I like how she talks in the beginning, how people don't really read the directions on the bleach.
Yeah.
She said, it's not really for cleaning.
Right.
You clean first and then you use
Then
the
you
bleach.
disinfect, guys. Okay? She knows.
Yeah.
So, the sister of Femi eventually shows up to the girl's home.
Oh, man.
And when she shows up, Ayula's walking down the street looking some ice cream. And I mean, first it's just Korede and the sister, and Korede doesn't really know what to do. But Ayula walks up, and the sister too is in a way captivated by Ayula. Yeah. And she's like, I know you did something to my brother. Why won't you confess? Why won't you confess if you murdered him? And then Ayula's like, murdered him? Oh my goodness, do you think he's dead?
The drama.
And the sister like starts bawling and releasing all of this emotion she's had pent up, and Ayula takes her in her arms, and meanwhile it's just staring longingly at this ice cream cone. She was just looking like, man, I wish I could get back to you. Yeah.
Terrible.
So eventually the internet forgets about Femi, and that's sad because that means you are truly forgotten. Even his poetry blog that the family set up is eventually gone. There's a 404 error. Yeah, so fatal attraction. Korede warns Tade that, hey, my sister hurts people. And he's like, oh yeah, I'm sure she's a heartbreaker. And she's like, no, she hurts people.
Like hurt.
And he is just disgusted by her jealousy. Clearly. She just wants the beauty that her sister has and the effortlessly. So it's a mess. So Tade is appalled by Korede and feels like she should have her sister's back. She warns him again. And then he implies, you know what, you just covet everything she has. And, you know, I'm going to try to forgive you for this discretion. Also, come here. I want to show you this ring I bought her. I'm going to ask her to marry me.
Oh, my goodness.
So Korede's like crumbling inside because she still loves him and he's just so stupid.
He's stupid. I'm so signed for her.
Well, she ain't too bright because her plan is to break into his office.
That was a little silly, but nonetheless.
Mess up some papers so it looks like a robbery and destroy the ring. So she bashes the ring on the floor and takes the stone out. Which, by the way, is 2 carats, and she's pretty sure her sister wouldn't wear anything less than 3.
Right. But she did that because she wanted to buy him some time to really think about the woman that he's choosing to marry.
Yeah, well, all she bought was a one-way ticket for a janitor to be terminated when suspected of being the robber. So soon after this janitor is fired, the doctor stops talking. Tade stops talking to Korede.
Yeah.
And she's like casually like, hey, you know, how have you been, stranger?
This is kind of weird.
And he goes, huh? What? You know what's strange? Is that nothing was stolen out of my office. Only the ring was missing. So, you know, I hate you.
You know the meme.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So let's get into the father. Their father, there are a lot of chapters in this book titled Father. Yeah. And within each, we get a window into who he was. And he was a terrible person.
Right.
Narcissistic, a womanizer. Do you remember one of his early, just a disgusting way he entered the home one night?
Oh, yeah. The part where he brings in his
mustard colored woman.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he brings her into the house where the family lives, the wife, the children. And the mom comes out of the room
screaming like a banshee. And the girl can't be older than 20.
Like at the time, the children think she's older.
But they now realize in their adult age that she was young.
Right.
She was really young.
But he's bringing this woman in the house. I mean, this part just leaves me speechless.
Yeah.
I can't.
So the mom always knew he had indiscretions. But this she cannot take. So she's screaming at the woman. All her hysteria is aimed at the woman, not even at the husband.
Because she knows it comes with violence.
Well, he slaps her against the wall and assaults her, strikes her. She falls to the ground and the girl's like, see, my boyfriend won't let you talk to me anyway.
And what kind of woman?
I know, but she is a kid. Yeah. And they go into his bedroom and the mom is just in a pool on the floor.
Crying.
Yeah. And the girls run down and I think they all sleep in the same room that night.
They do.
And soon after, the mom starts abusing Ambien and uses it to cope with everything that's going on in the house. The next day at breakfast, the father is like, the girl's gone and the father is raving about his perfect wife and how she makes a perfect breakfast. And Korede mentions that this isn't because he's trying to be back in her mom's good graces. It's because he's forgotten about it.
He's moved on.
He doesn't care. He's moved on.
He's moved on.
And there's a part in the book where she uses the same type of language to describe her sister.
Yes.
You remember that?
Well, not so much the language, but I remember how she felt like her sister didn't show remorse. Her actions after this and the way she jumped on social media the very next day just seems like she had blew it off. She moved on. It was over.
Psychopath.
Done.
More and more she reminds me of him, Korede says. He could do a bad thing and behave like a model citizen right after, as though the bad thing had never happened. Is it in the blood? But his blood is my blood and my blood is hers. So this goes to your point. Is it genetics? Something's wrong. Well, anyway, we are taken into one of the moments that shapes who the girls become in there. Well, let me just go off on a quick tangent. There was this boy that followed Ayoola home from school. Do you remember that? Very innocently. He obviously liked her, but he was just one of her friends.
Did he follow her home?
Kind of like he just not followed her like she didn't know. But
no, he came by to visit because he wanted to profess. He wanted to be her girlfriend, her boyfriend.
Right.
Yeah.
And the father welcomes him kindly, is serving him tea. It's like, you like my girls, huh? And he's like, no, sir. Yes, sir. I don't know what to say.
Right.
And, they're shooting the breeze and the dad is just wonderful. And the boy can't stop staring at Ayoola and Ayoola loves the attention. But Korede recognizes what's going on and is like, Ayoola, come with me to the kitchen. And Ayoola's like, no, I'm good. Because she's an idiot. And so the boy leaves. The father gets his cane, which he keeps prominently in the house. It is like, in my mind, above the television.
Right. It's displayed. It's a mantelpiece.
Thick. It looks like something that someone would hang as a decoration, a big piece of decor. But no, that's what he uses to beat the girls senseless. And so when the boy leaves, he tells Ayoola to strip in the middle of the floor. She takes off her dress and he beats her. This part was really touching. Korede grabs her hand, hoping that some of the blows aimed for her will hit instead Korede.
Yep.
And some of them do, but not. She doesn't get even the brunt
of it.
Yeah, brunt of it. So before Ayoola just passes out, Korede reminds her father that there will be scars and people will ask questions, and he values nothing more than his golden reputation in the community.
Right.
And so he stops. But that's a sign that just what a job he's done on them emotionally and physically. One day he brings a chieftain home, a very powerful man, and even at 14, Ayoola's beautiful, and the man can't stop staring at her. And the father doesn't really think of the girls as beautiful.
No.
But when he sees that, he asks the girls to dismiss themselves. They leave the room and Korede listens at the door. She hears words like girl and I think like business deal and things like that the next day.
Yeah. Because she had understood that for Chief, if he sees a woman or a girl that he likes, he gets it.
Yes.
He gets
so
them.
so their mom would make them stay away from any chieftains, right? So the next day, their father's twin sister, their aunt, arrives to the house to take Ayula to the chieftain's home. And she tells Ayula, as Ayula is clinging to her sister, crying and screaming, that if you do this one thing, this man will give you whatever you want for the rest of your life. And she goes, whatever I want. and Korede slaps her to call her to her senses. Because her biggest fear is not necessarily what will happen, but it's this frantic way Korede's crying is making Ayula cry.
Right.
So whatever emotion Korede displays, Ayula mirrors.
Yeah.
If Korede cries, Ayula cries. Do you think this is a sign that, Ayula really does love her sister?
No.
Then why is she mirroring always her sister's emotion?
I think that's natural to mirror your, especially in such close, they were close. Yeah. Right? I think it's natural to mirror
them. It's like them against the world.
Mm-hmm. And then also the fact that Korede was taught this is your younger sister, you must protect her.
You have to care for her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You are her protector.
Yeah, if she's hungry, it's because you let her go hungry. If she steals from the market, you let her go hungry, you get the consequences.
That was the responsibility put on the oldest child.
Korede courageously grabs a cane and chases her aunt out of the house. The next day, spoiler alert, Korede stabs her father. This is how I read it. Mm-hmm.
I really felt like that part was left in the air. They did not spell that out.
Okay, let me read it.
Okay, what page? Can you
I don't know. I can tell you a chapter.
Tell me a chapter.
Okay. So this is a father chapter that's between Roses and Braithwaite.
Okay.
And it reads, one day he was towering over me, spitting pure hell. He reached for his cane and then he slumped, hitting his head against the glass table as he fell to the floor. His blood was brighter than the dark color we saw on TV. I got up warily and Ayula came out from behind the couch where she'd been taking cover. We stood over him. For the first time, we were taller. We watched the life seep out of him. Eventually, I woke my mother up from her Ambien-induced sleep and told her it was over. So from this section, I gather that Korede stabbed her father to death. Her sister came from behind the couch and they just watched him die on the floor.
I'm hard pressed to believe that. I mean, and I see how that's read, but why wouldn't they have been taken to jail if he's stabbed?
Well, what do you think is happening here?
I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But the fact that there's no story behind whether...
I thought that too. Or why isn't his twin sister upset at them? She looks at them as daughters even though they hate her.
Right.
But
I don't know.
But I also then am reminded that this was the beginning of the killing in the family. Yes. And when we find these girls, they've already killed 3 people. Ayula has
not both of them.
Yeah, not both of them, but cleaned and or killed up the 3 murders. So this is where they learned. And I thought it was interesting that the first murder came from Korede. As Ayula hid.
I can't get behind that.
That's what's happening, girl.
Because there would have had to been some kind of criminal investigation.
Was there any criminal investigation for the other 3 boyfriends?
And then think about it. Uh-huh. There's a celebration of life, right? Mm-hmm. When is it, like 10 years?
Yeah, after his passing.
Where's the conversation about? I mean,
they don't talk about it
at all.
No,
I don't know.
We just read it though.
I feel like something did happen to him, but
what happened was Korede stabbed him. He slumped over, hit his head on the glass table, and then fell to the floor. Her sister jumped out from behind the couch, and they just stood over him, feeling power for once over this man that has terrorized them for their entire childhood.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure, but okay. I can't embrace it.
Girl, it's in the book. Okay. So, this was the first killing. It was done by Korede's hand, but all the killings afterward are by her sister. I think there's something there. So they act almost as one. I'll get back to this, but Ayula's painted superficially as the shallow one, Korede as the deeper, more loving soul.
Yep, steady.
But they seem to be two sides of the same coin.
Ooh, actually, I heard that.
So let's take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll get into the second half of the deep dive. Not second half, I mean the end of it.
The conclusion.
Yeah, and our final verdict.
Sounds good.
Not today. You get it?
No.
Well, you will. So, Tade confesses his love for Ayula, we assume. And Ayula confesses her love for stabbing people by trying to stab Tade. But Tade like work out and stuff. And he like, oh, no.
No, you're not going to stab me.
And he's like, oh my goodness, stop. You're so beautiful. Please don't let it end like this. And so he stabs her. Plot twist.
Right.
Yeah, so Ayula calls Korede, who arrives to Tade's home, and Korede's first thoughts are, this will be my first time in Tade's home. Well, anyway, she walks in to collect her sister. Tade carries Ayula downstairs with Ayula resting her head on his shoulder as if they're madly in love still.
Right.
And he proves he is still very much attracted to her.
Sad. This is really sad.
She has tried to stab him. He has stabbed her. And Korede's like, but why though? And he says something that's very interesting. Korede asks, Tade, what do you like about my sister? And he goes, everything. But if you had to be specific,
right.
Well, she's special. Okay, but what makes her special?
Right.
She's just so, she is beautiful and perfect. Yeah, I never wanted to be with someone this much.
Right. And what is it based on? As we see, nothing.
She's beautiful and perfect. So,
and this is after he stabbed her, right?
Yeah. So Korede's
so
like,
over him.
I warned you. And he's like, if this has happened before, you're the sick one. She has a problem, obviously. But you keep enabling her and cleaning up her messes. What's wrong with you? And that's when that was the final nail in my Tade coffin. Yeah.
I'm so over him. I don't like how he came for her so often, because a lot of the stuff that he said, well, I won't say a lot of it, but some of the stuff that he said about her was based on things that Ayula said about her. She was actually feeding these negative things. Your sister thinks you're a monster.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's very interesting that you mentioned that, because there's a section of the book where Ayula is convalescing and Korede goes to get the true tea behind what happened between Ayula and Tade.
Okay.
Will you tell me what happened? On the bedside table is an open box of candy, a get-well-soon gift. She plucks out a lollipop and wraps it and sticks it in her mouth, sucking on it thoughtfully. Between Tade and me? Yeah. She sucks some more. He said you broke my ring, said you were accusing me of all sorts, and that maybe you had something to do with my ex going missing? What? What did you say? I told him he was crazy, but he said you were really jealous of me and had some kind of latent anger. That what if... She pauses for dramatic effect. What if you had gone back after we left, to talk to Femi? He thinks I killed Femi? I grab Ayula's arm, even though she's not to blame this time. How could he think I was capable of that? Weird, right? I didn't even tell him about Femi, only Gaboye. Maybe he saw it on Insta. Anyway, it's like he wanted to report you or something. So I did what I had to do. She shrugs. Or at least I tried. She grabs a bear, buries her head in it, and is quiet. And then I was on the ground. He was all like, oh my gosh, Korede was telling the truth. What did you tell him, Korede? She did this for me and ended up hurt because I betrayed her. I feel dizzy. I didn't want to admit that I chose a man's welfare over hers. I don't want to confess to letting him come between us when she clearly chose me over him. I told him you were dangerous. She sighs and asks, what do you think will happen now? There will be an investigation of sorts. Will they believe his story? I don't know. It's his word against yours. Against ours, Korede. It's his word against ours.
Drama.
Yeah. So Tade is suspended. He is sentenced to a few months in prison. And he won't be a doctor again. That's for sure.
He lost his license.
Yeah. And the book ends with another man coming to meet Ayoola at the family home.
Actually, I don't believe her take on that. I don't.
Tell me, what do you mean?
The story she just told, I don't believe it. I don't, because she's not trustworthy.
Interesting.
She's not a trustworthy character.
Yeah, well, duh.
I mean, she had already lied about, what part did she lie about? Yeah, she lied about, darn it, I lost my thought.
You can't catch her in a lie.
You lied.
You have inferred that she lied.
No, she lied.
About what?
Oh, gosh. Why can't I think of
You're blinded by her beauty. Even you.
Pass.
Even you, Alexis. So it is obvious that Korede is the Maga that she believed she was. And Maga in Nigerian Pidgin English is like some fool who's been taken advantage of. Ayoola is playing her like a fiddle.
She is.
For sure.
Also a liar.
Yeah. Well,
we'll get to that.
Yeah. Everyone in her life she is manipulating, including Korede. And this story, I am with you. Obviously, she is lying. She is lying.
Oh, thank you. I feel better that you confirmed that for me.
No, I definitely, yeah. It's for the reader to guess. But obviously, Tade did not think that Korede killed Femi and he was going to go to the police about it.
Right.
Maybe, though, that she killed Femi. That part I could see. Because he does not think much of Korede at this point.
No, he doesn't. He just sees her as a jealous sister.
Yeah, but there was no self-defense or Ayoola was not protecting her sister's name.
Right.
Ayoola was just being Ayoola and she stabbed folks.
Right. Ooh, child.
Yeah, so final verdict. What did you think about this book, Alexis?
I gotta say, I really had, when I finished reading this, I did not have to read it again.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh, Goodreads is going to get you.
I know, but I did not have to read it again.
Why is that?
I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was their relationship. Their relationship bothered me the most.
Why?
I didn't like how she wasn't confident in herself. I didn't like how her sister was just this self-absorbed thing that just kind of whatever. I didn't like that.
But that's the way the characters were written. I mean,
I know.
So it was no fault in the story that you saw.
No, I didn't see fault in the story.
You just didn't like the characters either.
I didn't like the characters. I was disappointed in all of them.
Yeah, there's no one to root for.
Yeah, and I wanted to root for Korede, but she just was so down on herself, and I don't like that. That's hard for me to hear people be down on themselves like that.
It's hard for you to get on their team if they're not on their own team.
Right. So I couldn't. So, but I would tell people to read it. I just would not read it again.
But are you glad you read it this one time?
Yeah, because it's a popular book.
Your honesty. Ooh, so brutal.
Yeah. So how about you? What's your final thought on it?
So I thought it was definitely a page turner. It's easy to read, easy to follow. It made me wish I was on a beach somewhere and it was a book I could slip in and out of with no problem. However, there is little bite in the story about family murder and the elusiveness of love. I would have enjoyed a twist that made the reader question everything they thought about Korede and make Korede question what she thinks of herself. I don't think she ever has to look inside and come to grips with who she is as a character, as a person. It was almost there in that MAGA chapter where she realized she was taken advantage of by her sister, but then it just continued. And it doesn't seem like our protagonist is any less shallow than her murderous sibling to me. Because she has settled into her role as enabler, and that's just who she is. Whereas her sister has settled into the role of the beautiful flirt, and that is just who she is. These are not characters that followed me off the page. I won't think about them later.
No.
And so my final verdict is that I am glad I read it because it is a popular book. It is easy to follow, and it didn't hurt me at all to read it. I like that it wasn't gory. And so I could recommend it as a great beach read. But this book is just as shallow to me as its characters.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that. It wasn't gory. I did like that about it, but I just
wanted something more.
Yeah. I could not be taken in, and I was fine.
I would like a sequel where maybe one sister dominates the other and starts a life on her own. I don't even care if it's Ayula, who's has to be on her own and become a full formed person.
And that's interesting because I feel like I would read other books of hers
within the universe here.
Yep. Mm-hmm. But this one didn't leave me wanting more.
Right.
All right. Well, that's it for today, right?
Yes, we did it. Woo!
Yeah, we did it. Thank you all for listening today to Lit Society. Lit Society is brought to you by Alexis Honoria and Kari Herrera. Listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all major podcast providers. If you like what you've heard today, tell a friend about Lit Society. Visit litsocietypod.com to sign up for the world's best free newsletter. Until next time, read something.
Read something.